Hello YouTube, Louie here, and what you have in front of you is the Lydian Lion coin. Okay, this coin is a little bit old. It was created in the 6th century BC. It is potentially one of the oldest coins and the first examples of coinage in the world. And this was created by King Alyattes in Sardis, Lydia. If you'd like to know where Lydia is, here is a map of Europe. Lydia occupied a spot right around here in modern day Turkey. This is Greece here. So this is what it looks like to this day. Here are the ruins at Lydia. So one of the reasons that modern coinage but coinage was begun in Lydia is that this particular area that produced an amazing amount of gold, silver amalgam called electrum. These coins are not made out of gold and not made out of silver, but a combination of gold, silver, and copper, as well as some other elements, but roughly 50-50 in the composition of the gold and silver. So they were not subject to damage as pure gold was, and they survived quite well through time. What you're looking at is a 1/3 stater, but 1/3 staters and other fractional staters do exist today. This particular coin sells for between $1,000 and $2,000 in varying condition, weighs 4.71 grams. So that would contain about 2.5 grams of gold, putting the metal content at around $100? Okay. But they sell for $1,000 to $2,000 if you'd like to pick one up. I'm not sure where you buy them, probably at fine coin auctions. But this can be attributed to King Alyattes of Sardis, Lydia. And let's see if we can find a little more about him. Among what we know with confidence is that the Lydian Lion trite was the most common Lydian denomination of its time, and that it's made of electrum, an alloy of gold and silver called white gold. And some of these actually are white to the appearance, although some also seem gold to the appearance. The Lydian Lion trite may have been worth about a month's subsistence. So let's think about that for a minute. A month, so about 1/10 of an ounce of gold, less than 1/10 of an ounce of gold would be a month's worth of subsistence. Well, that's very interesting. That tells you that gold was actually more valuable in ancient Lydia. According to Ian Caridas and Martin Jessup, placed a higher value on it, suggesting that it may have had the buying power of about 11 sheep. If the Lydians were the first to strike coins, why them? An interesting people, but a people not particularly celebrated in history, a people assimilated long ago. This is another question, like many involving ancient coins, for which there is a scarcity of hard evidence that requires you to resort to deduction to answer. The result may not be conclusive, but it can be persuasive, and though it is only tentative, it can be satisfying. The answer in this case, I believe, has to do with the Lydians' prosperity. First, the Lydians commanded the electrum-rich Pactolus River. According to Greek mythology, the Pactolus River acquired its electrum when King Midas of nearby Phrygia bathed in it and washed away his golden touch, which had turned even his food into gold, a telling parable about the destructiveness of wealth. In actuality, the Pactolus River acquired its electrum from electrum-laden quartz deposits near Mount Molos, called Mount Bosdag today. The Lydians, as did others elsewhere, probably sifted the silt, sand, and gravel of the Pactolus River, as well as the Hermus River, and other waterways with sheepskins, a practice in the ancient world that likely gave rise to the legend of Golden Fleece. Small quantities of electrum can still be recovered from the Pactolus River in nearby streams. Even though coinage doesn't appear to have initially served commerce or trade, it is likely that the Lydians created coins as we know them because they were the first to recognize their profit-making potential. Electrum. As found in nature, electrum can be naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver, or it can be man-made alloy in the case of Lydian coins, in which the Lydians carefully controlled the percentages of gold and silver. Perhaps the most intriguing debate deals with why Lydians minted these early coins in electrum, an alloy of gold and silver. Many sources erroneously refer to these coins as being made of naturally occurring electrum. According to those who have done the metallurgical analysis, Western Anatolian electrum then and now has a gold content of 70 to 90%, while these coins have a gold content of 50 to 60%, with most of those that have been analyzed consisting of around 54% gold. This indicates that the Lydians added these metals to electrum. Silver was less expensive, as was copper, and it was likely the small amount of copper that was added was done so to improve the coin's color and hardness. Though some scholars disagree, the evidence, though not conclusive, suggests that the Lydians already possessed the technology to refine pure gold and silver, and if they wanted to, they could have produced pure gold coins, as they did shortly later during the rule of Croesus. The reason they didn't is debated. One theory, famously proposed by Struve Bolin in 1958, is that the first coins were the first numismatic deception. The Lydian ruling authorities may have deliberately and surreptitiously debased naturally occurring electrum as a profit-making enterprise, to put it politely, or as a state-sanctioned racket, to put it less politely. Bolin used the phrase an imposture, a large-scale swindle. This theory, sometimes as a slightly different rendering, has been supported by most scholars since then, including T.F. Carney, etc., 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 etc. Fewer scholars, it seems, have argued that silver and copper were added to naturally occurring electrum for less sinister reasons, to create a more consistent alloy. Gold could have been added to naturally occurring electrum as easily as silver. That the Lydian king earned what was undoubtedly large seigniorage profits wasn't criminal, just opportunistic. It used to be thought that coins came into existence to facilitate commerce, preventing merchants from having to weigh bullion with each transaction. The weight of Lydian trites, in fact, is remarkably consistent, with most hovering very close to 4.7 grams. But one of the things we now know about the function of the first coins with any degree of assurance is that they weren't used as coins, that is, for everyday market transactions. It's clear that it took some time before ancient coins were used for commerce and trade. Even the smallest denomination electrum coins, perhaps worth about one day's subsistence, would have been too valuable for buying a loaf of bread. Electrum coins have been conspicuously absent from the archaeological finds in the market of Sardis, capital of Lydia. Gold and silver bullion were likely still used for commerce in Western Asia Minor, including Lydia, as that time the electrum coins were minted. The first coins to be used for retailing on a large-scale basis were likely small silver fractions minted by Ionian Greeks in the late 6th century. Instead of commerce and trade, these earliest coins were in all likelihood used for other purposes. What follows is a suggested scenario. Bullion had long been used as money. The Lydian king, Alyattes, a crafty and powerful figure who ruled for half a century, figured out that if he controlled the bullion market, or part of it, he'd further amass his wealth. So he deemed that only bullion with his mark, the roaring lion, could be used for official purposes. The state paying state workers and mercenaries, and people paying taxes and making religious donations. Other purposes that this first coinage were soon put to likely included gifts as part of treaty ceremonies, wedding presents, and hospitality offerings. Along with typical seigniorage profits, that later minting authorities would enjoy. Alyattes further enriched himself by debasing naturally occurring electrum with silver and copper. To facilitate acceptance, he carefully controlled the weight of each piece of this new type of bullion. Merchandisers and traders continued to use regular bullion until the Greeks, clever traders that they were, took what the Lydians invented and went a step further. They figured out that silver coins, being more difficult to debase, would be more accepted in more places than electrum coins for retailing and trade, while still earning them profits. Coinage, invented by the Lydians, was thus spread by the Greeks.